Yeah, I'm ready. All right. Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another episode of Wild's the Dome TV. Today, man, I have a very, very special guest, man. We've been trying to make this happen for a few weeks now. We able to get it done. Um, all boxing fans, all boxing historians, make sure you subscribe to the Parry podcast. It's the dopest boxing podcast on YouTube. My brother Che Black, my brother Bomani UFG, the host of the Perry podcast. Trust me, you know what I'm saying? You'll see after this show why you need to subscribe to that podcast right there. So without wasting any more time, man, let's get it in. How you doing, Che? How you doing, Bomani? How's it going, man?
Peace, peace.
Peace.
Same fight, different round, brother.
You already know,
Already,
man.
man.
Thank you for
Let's
having us on here, brother. Appreciate it.
No, oh, for sure. Y'all, my brothers, it's an honor, man. Y'all, what y'all do is great, man. We need, we'll get into it throughout the show, but boxing, man, is a very opinionated fan bases out here, and you know what I'm saying, and bias can often creep in. You know what I mean? But I don't. In certain cases, I don't really see anything wrong with it. But we'll get further into that. First, I wanted to kind of build on. The role of black promoters, right, and shaping the landscape of boxing and how they have impacted the sport. From I guess the days of Don King to now with PBC.
Well, I'll let me speak real quick. I think Che will probably definitely have more in depth knowledge about this particular topic, but I think before we really delve into that topic, like we got to understand that like just the overall history of boxing when it comes to promoting in the first place, right? It went through many different phases and stages in the sport. And if you ask me, like I was just having this conversation last night. Um, Boxing is probably still the most corrupt or corruptible sport on earth since
Right.
its inception. But at first, boxing, the promoters of boxing were mainly Europeans, whites. You know what I'm saying, and their main thing
Italians.
was, yeah. Well, we'll get to that. Well, but mainly first it was whites. You know what I'm saying, Europeans that came here, particularly had like Irish and Englishmen that was over here, and they would keep black fighters away from their
Mhm,
fighters. They would make
mhm.
us fight each other and make them fight one another. But the recognized champions was white, and then he created separate titles for black folk, right? Then like Chase said, eventually then it got to the point where the mob, where Italian and Jewish gangsters pretty much controlled the sport. And I think when by the time black promoters came around, um, you had to, in order to even get your foot in the door, you had to somewhat have some dirt on you, right? You had to be somewhat uh come from a particular kind of background, considering that boxing is a sport that is mainly what they call a poor man sport, right? Like most fighters come from poor backgrounds and had to fight their way to the top. And when you on that particular kind of journey, you come across certain nefarious type of characters that you know either got their hand in the sport or got some money invested in the sport or want to kind of manipulate things for their own benefit. So by the time black
Kind of
promoters got
reminds me of a Harlem Nights movie.
right, right,
You
right,
know what I'm
you know what
saying?
I'm saying? It's like the fix is in,
Right,
but
right, right, right.
you had, just my basic knowledge on when it comes to black promoters like Don King. Shay, remind me the brother with the Butch, what's his brother name,
Lewis.
man? Yeah,
Mm.
Butch Lewis. And of course you got Al Heyman. But Al Heyman is not particularly a promoter. They say he's a manager and advisor. However,
Murad Muhammad. Don't
he's the
forget Murad
owner.
Muhammad.
Mm.
Oh yeah, Murad Muhammad. That's right, Murad Muhammad. Yep, yep, yep. So you had different black promoters that, you know, in one way or another, might not have been the most stand up individuals, but at the end of the day, this is just the nature of the business of the sport,
Right,
right? From its
right.
inception. Like you had a lot of people that in order to if they couldn't fight and they had to promote or manage fighters, they was usually kind of shady type characters, individuals that had a background of being some type of gangster. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Don King
mm.
included.
Right, right,
But I know
right,
Che
right.
Black. Che Black definitely got more information on that topic. Go ahead, Che.
Well, Don King is the greatest promoter ever
Mm.
in boxing. Period. Like that's without a doubt. Also, the level of money that he brought into the game for fighters was unheard of until he brought it into the game. And not to justify thievery or
Hmm.
stealing from anyone, but at the end of the day, the type of money fighters were getting with Don King, even with the cuts he was taking out, was still what they was getting from them white boys.
Mm.
It just really, if you really analyze it, nobody was giving Muhammad Ali. He was supposed to get 8 and ended up with 6. Nobody was giving Muhammad a 38-year-old Muhammad Ali 6 million to fight Larry Holmes. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Right.
when you look at it, Don King had a way of creating and generating money, and like all types of, like, Don King's job, or the promoter's job, is to generate the money for the fight. And Don King, regardless of his tactics, because a lot of them are definitely unsavory, a lot of scrupulous tactics, but regardless, he was the best at it.
Mm. Well,
When you look at fights like the Rumble in the Jungle, when
right.
you look at fights like um the Thriller in Manila, this was Don King right here. But go
Mm.
ahead, what you was about to ask?
No, no, that's real because whenever we think about some of the biggest fights, just hearing that name, Rumble in the Jungle or Thriller in Manila, like to be, I don't know if they was doing that back then of creating, you know what I'm saying, little name, or that was that a Don King thing, or was that
What's that?
something,
What was you
you know,
asking?
like naming a fight. All right, so you had like the Thriller in Manila.
Nah, that was
Um,
always something that was done.
okay,
Even going to
okay.
the first Ali Frazier fight, that was the fight. It was just built
Mm.
to fight. So fights, naming fights, billing fights was always something.
When we look at
So,
now, Floyd, right? He's in the promotion game, ain't he?
indeed, indeed,
And
him and
how would
Ali.
y'all how would y'all say Floyd is faring in his new career as being a boxing promoter?
I
Well,
think Floyd. I think Floyd. In all disrespect, Floyd is good at promoting Floyd Mayweather.
Hmm.
I think the one I guess knock I would say on his uh, business as a promoter is that he always puts himself ahead of the fighters he's actually trying to promote, and it becomes more about him on more times than not. Um, I think part of the problem is you got fighters that's trying to follow in a Floyd Mayweather type blueprint. They don't want to lose, and they want to get all of the money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think personally, I feel like Mayweather Promotions could be a lot further, a lot bigger, and have probably some of the best fighters in the business if they did business a certain kind of way. But I think mainly it's because Floyd always wants all of the shine. You know what I'm saying? That's
Mm.
just my opinion. He puts himself first. When you hear, he was just at a Carmel Moulton at his press conference, and they was asking him about Moulton, and it somehow became about him being
Right.
the greatest of all time. So it's like I think if there's one if there's one flaw to his promotion game is that he got to be involved, and it always got to be about him. And I'm not, to be honest, I'm not a particular fan of some of the people that work for that company.
Well, I will say
Yeah.
this to
HWC.
add on to what my brother is saying. In all fairness, like, when you have star power like that, it's hard not to try to, you have to use your own star power. Don King made himself a character outside of his fighters.
Hmm.
So we reckon, like, a lot of people won't recognize Bob Arum by face, Frank Warren by face, Kathy Duva by face, Eddie Hearns, um, Tex Rickard. These are people you're not going to look at and recognize by face. Even Marab Muhammad to a degree. But when you say Don King, the hair, the flamboyantness, the bombasticness, the wordplay, all of that
Yeah.
comes into mind. And you also think of the trickery, the pimpery, the thievery, all of this comes into mind.
Only in America.
Yeah.
Only in America.
Yeah. The
You understand?
catchphrases, all that,
But
right?
it's funny though, because a lot of times we'll look at Don King, and we'll think about the corruptness of Don King, but yet we'll excuse the corruptness of Dan Duva. We'll excuse
Hmm.
the corruptness of Bob Arum, or like I said, of Frank Warren, and we'll just look at someone like Don King. And part of it is because of his own loud characteristics, and another part is because he is the brother.
Right.
Right.
Right. Oh, I definitely agree with that. Bomani kind of mentioned how the fight game was, back in the day when it for brothers, during the times of like Jack Johnson, to where, you know, they wouldn't, a lot of, being a black champion was hard, because they, for a minute, they wouldn't let their fighters fight us, right? And so when it comes
Indeed.
to Jack Johnson, um you know just from a historical aspect, why, like, Jack Johnson, for us, for boxing fans, for brothers, he has become like an iconic figure. If you can just speak about Jack Johnson and why he has become that iconic figure. I mean, hell, Most Def was about to name an album after him. You know what I'm saying? And we see,
Go first.
there was a resurgence in just at one time of people wanting to learn. I want to say, wasn't there a movie with James Earl Jones or something
Yes, it was.
like
Yes,
back
it
in the
was.
day?
Hmm.
Yes, there
You know what
was
I
a
mean?
movie with James Earl Jones.
So
Absolutely.
what's the science behind Jack Johnson?
Would you like to start this one off, Bomani?
Well, Jack Johnson, I think, reason why he's so iconic. One is you gotta remember the times in which he became heavyweight champion.
Hmm.
He was the first, not the first, but he was before he became heavyweight champ of the world. He was the what they call the black heavyweight champion, right, or the
Hmm.
Negro heavyweight champion. Like they designated titles just for black folk to keep us from competing against them. And he was the champion at the time. I forgot the dude's name. I think he was Canadian, white dude. Followed dude around for some years to get the fight. He finally gets the fight, beat the brakes off him, and becomes champion. Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, at a time when black people were getting lynched in America wholesale.
Right, right.
He was braggadocious. I mean, he was walking around parading with white females at a time with just looking at one that gets you
Hmm.
hung and thrown in the lake somewhere. You know what
The
I
Right.
mean?
police stopped his first fight. His championship fight. When he won the title, go ahead, hold your thought, Bomani, but I just wanted to add that. When he won the title, the police stopped the footage from rolling and called the halt to the fight. The police. That's how he
Wow.
won his title. So,
Wow.
because he was beating that white boy so seriously. But go ahead, Bomani.
Yeah,
Wow.
the dude. Hold on, I'm trying to find my man name. Canadian cat was the champ, and like I said, he followed him around for 2 years. And I guess you got to give a white boy some respect because he was like, well, I want to be the heavyweight champ of the world, not just the white heavyweight champ. I want to fight on all comers. So he finally took the
Mhm.
fight, and he regretted it. It became the, what I mean, became Jack Johnson became the first black heavyweight champion. Like I said, at a time when um, just looking a white man in the eye to get you in trouble. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just looking at a white woman wrong and get you lynched. And he was parading
Yeah.
around with white women. Not that I'm co-signing that type of behavior, but nonetheless, this is what he was doing at a time where it could cost you your life.
Right.
And it
Um,
was Tommy
and
Burns.
Tommy Burns, right,
He
Mm.
beat
right,
Tommy Burns for the heavyweight title.
right.
Um,
Um, and that and but he was the champion at a time where there was a lot of great black fighters still. I forgot my
yeah,
man name.
Sam Langford.
Huh?
Yeah,
Sam
Sam
Langford.
Langford.
Mm.
Yeah, Sam Langford was.
Bad, bad, bad man.
Even Jack Johnson ducked Sam.
Wow.
Sam Langford, he's still ranked up amongst the greatest heavyweights, like as far as power is concerned. That dude was
Absolutely.
knocking dudes' heads off. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
He's still regarded even today as one of the hardest punchers in boxing. I think he's originally from the islands, but
Mhm.
he migrated over here and ended up, I think, in Boston. He was actually I think he was Canadian, and then he moved to Boston. Sam Langford, look that brother up too. And
Bet.
like he said,
I'm definitely.
Jack Johnson ducked him as well. Absolutely.
That's a fact.
But
That's a fact.
but Jack Johnson was the first one to really, not that he was. I can't even say he was the best fighter at the time, but he's
A-
the one who got the shot.
and contextually speaking, right, this was at a time when the heavyweight champion of the world was the baddest man in the world, theoretically, right? Like, you know
Absolutely.
Basically,
how,
basically,
yeah. And
basically, he
so
was
that
the
was a
Absolutely.
big
champion.
deal for
He
it
was
to
that
either be
dude.
a brother. Yeah, yeah.
He was
And they
that
and they
dude.
fought and they fought until it was over.
Right, Right.
Like
No 12 round, no
we
12 round
no
fights.
12 rounds, no
No,
15. They going 20, 25
Damn,
rounds.
that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
it was like and the rules was different. Back then you get punched in the face, get dropped. As soon as you get up, I could jump back on you, bop, 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 drop you
Damn.
again. It wasn't no standing eight
there
counts.
wasn't no go to your corner. That fight didn't. The go to the neutral corner rule wasn't implemented until the 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 Jack Dempsey
Mm.
Gene Tooney second fight. That's when they implemented that rule.
So when we think about,
But real quick,
oh yeah,
because
go
we
ahead,
was
my
talking
bad.
Jack Johnson, and I just wanted to say that it was 29 years before we had another black heavyweight, before they even allowed another black man to fight for the heavyweight title. And we know that was Joe Louis. Now, Jack
Mm.
Johnson, we recognize Jack Johnson the most because he was the first. And like Bomani said, he probably wasn't even the actually best. He was kind of like the Jackie Robinson, so to
Jackie
speak.
Robinson, right? Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
I
to
see.
speak. But
Hmm.
in all honesty, it wasn't until like Joe Louis was our champion. If you really want to, if you're gonna get technical, Jack Johnson, although he was a black champion, he actually was the reason why it took 29 years before they would even let a black man fight for the
Hmm.
title again. You understand?
Mm.
Because of his
Hmm.
antics in and out of the ring. He carried on with the white women. He taunted the white opponents. He was, and I mean, he had reasons for doing a lot of what he did, but he didn't represent the people like Joe Louis represented the people. Joe Louis was our first real champion in all honesty, and he was also the first black superstar champion. Before Joe Louis, Jack Johnson, although he was a champion, he wasn't a superstar. The first superstar in boxing was probably Jack Dempsey, and then our first superstar was absolutely Joe Louis. So when we talk the first, although Joe Louis is the second, we have to always remember Joe Louis.
No doubt. And well, speaking of Joe Louis, didn't he didn't he get like the dude? What
It
I
was
can't I can't
Braddock.
remember, but he
Braddock.
was
What
fighting
it
a
was,
Nazi,
yeah,
right?
it was
Uh, uh,
Brad. Well, he fought the Nazi. He did fought the
yeah,
Nazi.
he
They
fought. He
became good
fought.
friends. They became
Yeah,
good friends afterwards. After
Schmeling,
that
Max
second fight,
Schmeling.
Max Schmeling. Yes, Max
Max
Schmeling.
Schmeling. Yeah, that's
But
yeah.
what I was gonna say is, well, I thought you was gonna mention the fact that in order for him to even get the shot, well, Braddock, the champion at the time, got a piece of his next, I think, 10 fights or something like that. Something crazy.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It was something crazy
Wow.
like that.
Wow.
I mean,
When it
you
comes,
gotta remember they did everything possible to keep us out of the sport from competing with them in the sport.
right.
Because you got to remember when they had us on the plantations fighting each other, and they would was the sole benefiters of that. As
Hmm.
while we beating the hell out of each other, they placing bets and putting money up
Hmm.
against other white plantation owners and things of that nature. So they got to see firsthand one just how physically fit and durable and how hard we willing to fight. White boy wasn't ready to fight. They wasn't looking to get in the ring with that. You understand what
Right.
I'm saying? So and at the same time, they definitely didn't want us benefiting financially, off our own sweat. So
Hmm.
by the time just by the time Jack Johnson got his shot, I mean think about it. Like he said, it took 29 years for Joe Louis to get a shot at the heavyweight championship. That's because Jack Johnson was beating white boys wholesale.
No,
You know what
Right.
I
it
mean?
wasn't just because he was beating them wholesale. It wasn't. It was because he was carrying on with white women, and he was taunting these white boys. See,
No,
that
no, I
made it
know,
even extra
absolutely.
because Gene Tooney had no problem giving Henry Willis a chance. You understand what I'm saying? So so it's not like these white boys wouldn't fight anybody black. A fighter's spirit is a fighter's spirit. You understand what I'm saying? It was a lot of their promoters that was the problem when
Mm.
it comes to that. When it comes to that, but Jack Johnson, it wasn't a lot. And I think right there, the fact that he was beating these white boys like that, I think that's over exaggerated of why we never got another, or why Black Fighter didn't get another title shot until 29 years, because
So,
it wasn't just that. That
mhm.
wasn't even the main thing. It was, we don't want a black superstar, or we don't want no black guy walking around with our women and taunting us the way he did in the ring. Like, he was ruthless. Like, this dude was ruthless.
and
No,
then-
it was
and
He
true,
had a
but
touch
he was
switch.
but
also
I gotta
he was
think it.
also beating their best fighters.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I gotta think at around that time, they definitely didn't want the symbol of the most masculine, the baddest man on the planet to be a brother. You know what I'm saying? Like didn't like let's take it from like Joe Lewis. Like from everything that I've seen and read, that black folks took mad pride in Joe Lewis being the heavyweight champion of the world. It was a sense
Of
of,
course.
you know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's I didn't realize it took 29 years though for the next black champion after uh Joe Lewis. So I guess, and so okay, I kind of wanted to segue that into Ali a little bit. Um we'll stay with the heavyweights.
Okay.
Um what in your opinion, right? I mean, we've all read about Ali. We've all, seen the movies, the documentaries. But whenever you think of Muhammad Ali's legacy, like for y'all, what comes to mind?
The greatest.
Mm, right, right.
The greatest. But Ali, just we wasn't around in them times, obviously. But um, when you reflect on history and the stance, just what the man he represented himself to be
Mm,
in and out the ring,
hmm,
and putting it in the context of the times of which he was doing that in
hmm.
was amazing. Um, he stood up and stood for black people
Right,
specifically, and
right,
had no issues about stating that he
right.
was a black man in America. He knew exactly what position we were in as a people and what he represented. Um, and not to mention, I don't think it's even up for debate. He fought in the toughest era of heavyweight boxing known to
Killers,
man.
killers.
Like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah. Him and
like
Holyfield,
there
but he
was
was him number one
Mm,
yeah, like
because
he
the
fought in the
'90s was the second
toughest.
best.
'90s was the second best for sure,
But he
but
had, like he
I
said, like Bomani said, the killers. Go ahead, and throw
mm,
some
there
of them
there
killers.
was
Like
there, you had killers like Ken Norton. You know what I'm
hmm.
saying? Joe
Frazier,
Frazier.
George
George
Foreman.
Foreman.
Foreman. You had
You
Ronnie
know,
Lyle. You had
I'm about
fighters
to
Mm,
say
like
Ronnie Loud, Jimmy Young,
Jimmy Young. You know what I'm
who I think
saying?
beat Ali, but that's another story.
Did I mention Kid
Not
Norton? Man,
Ken
Kid
Norton
Norton
beat
looked
Ali
like
three times.
Kid Norton looked like he just came out the pen, man. Like he just
fact,
caught a body
fact,
and came home, man. The way he
fact,
looked at you,
fact.
man. Kid
Yeah,
Norton
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
was no joke. You know what I'm saying? Even the white boys back then was no joke, man. Like
facts.
They had some tough white
anyway.
boys back then.
Yeah, anywhere you turn, man, it wasn't many easy fights. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Where you look, there wasn't no what they call nowadays a soft touch.
Right,
But
right,
back in them days, when you got into a fight, it was a fight.
right.
And
And
Ali
and
beat more fighters
Ernie
than he lost, man.
Shavers.
oh
Ernie
yeah, yeah,
Shavers,
Ernie Shavers.
You know, it's
yeah,
funny because Ali is the greatest. I would say that Joe Louis was the best heavyweight that ever lived, though. But Ali, we
Mm,
look at Ali as the greatest. Um, Muhammad Ali, and it wasn't just because of what he did in the ring. Muhammad Ali was far from the most dominating champion. A lot of fights that he won, he barely won, if that. Just calling it like it is, like we went back. I'm not saying he didn't win. I'm saying that however you seen it, it was close. A
hmm.
lot of his greatest fights, a lot of his greatest victories. Um, Ali was bigger than the sport though, and that was the
Hmm.
difference. Ali was a man of the world. He was the world champion, and
Mm,
that's where Ali separates from from just about everybody else.
right,
Because the
right.
reality of it is we fantasize about Ali. If we start digging deep into the person that Ali was, we wouldn't be up here championing him the way we do. I'm just gonna call it like it is. There's a lot
Oh,
of
come on,
we
Jay.
could say that. Look, if you want me to open that can of worms, I will.
No, no,
no,
we're
we're
not
not
finna
I'm
doing
do
saying
that.
that.
because
See,
No, we not.
that's
I'm just
Chase,
We not
saying we're
man.
not
finna.
That's
going
Chase
big.
for you, man. He
We
can't.
not
That's
I'm
Chase
just
for
gonna
you,
keep it
man.
real. I'm
yeah,
a pragmatic, yo. We talking about we're
yeah. I
talking
know.
about 13-year-old
Just
girls
for
now. We're talking about
it
what you know what I
just
mean? Like we're talking
mute
about
this
Oh
man's
man, here
mic.
you
Mute this
go,
we're
man's
man.
talking
mic, man.
about supporting Ronald Reagan. You know what I mean? We're talking we're talking about turning his back on Malcolm. I could go deep, man.
Look,
Where we
man.
going with it?
Nah, we talking about that. Look, man.
Let,
Look,
let
Where
me
we
man.
ask.
going
Let me
with it?
ask you this.
Good.
Did did Elijah Muhammad have anything to do with the boxing side of what? Like like was there any like? Because I remember that quote about um the
Okay.
quote about the mafia cats, right? And the quote about the mafia cats, and they was talking about, I guess fixing the fight, and and the quote was
Y'all
something
seen that
Elijah was
Phantom
like,
Punch? Y'all seen the Phantom Punch?
that
Here
ain't
we
what
Who you
go.
think? Who you
Here we
that
go,
ain't what
man.
who
I
you
asked.
think had
That ain't what
Sonny
I,
scared?
Come
Who
on,
you think
man.
I'm
We
had
not
not we
Sonny?
not
asking.
Who
up
you
here to
think
tear
Sonny
I'm
down
was
not
scared
Ali.
of?
Just
listening.
said Ali's the greatest, man. What are
Who
you
do you
doing?
says? Who do you think Sonny was scared of?
I mean, they might,
Who do you
yeah,
think
man.
Sonny was scared of, man? I'm just going. But
Listen, man.
I
real
mean,
quick, real quick, he said he asked if Elijah Muhammad was involved in the boxing part, right? And I want to show
mhm,
you this. Well, a lot of people don't know main events, or not main events. Bob, top rank, which I can't remember the initial name that they started. That they initially went by. I think it was main bout. I think initially they was called main bout, which started by Herbert Muhammad, Elijah
mhm,
Muhammad's son,
mhm.
and Bob Arum.
Mm,
You understand?
wow,
It was started by
wow.
those two people started what's now known as Top Rank, and of course we know that Bob Arum
Wow.
solely owns Top Rank right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so
I did
they
I had no idea about any of that history. So Herbert was one of the co-founders of what we know now as Top Rank.
The top rank.
absolutely, absolutely,
Wow. Wow. So
absolutely.
let's get into some current stuff for first
Hold
thing,
on.
the
Let me just
okay.
say for the record, man. I'm just the
Chase
co-host
yeah.
on the Parry, man. I am not co-signing the slander of the greatest boxer to ever live,
Hold
man.
on,
All
wait a
right, we
minute. You know
not.
what slander is,
No,
right?
no,
So
no,
y'all
no.
seen slander taking place, people? I
Listen,
just
we
want to
not
know, did
doing
y'all
this. We
see
not
any
doing this,
slander
man.
take
We not
place?
doing
I'm
this.
not
Ali's
gonna
the
open. I'm
greatest.
not gonna. I'm done with it. I'm
We
not gonna
not.
go deep. I'm gonna
We not.
say that for when I make my little documentary.
Oh man, here we go.
You know what I mean?
That's
Because
why
we
we
gotta
the
tell the
Parry.
truth.
That's why this is the Parry.
Yeah,
We
this the
gotta tell
Perry,
the
man.
truth.
I'm telling you,
Yeah, yeah.
it's always must see TV with my brothers, man. Salute for that. But again, the we just saw the Andrade Benavides fight. Um, what were your takeaways? What were your takeaways from that fight, and where do you see Andrade going after this, and what's next for Benavides? I know he wants, I know he wants
Canelo.
the Canelo fight, but is that Canelo doesn't seem to be interested? You know what I'm saying? So, like, what's y'all thoughts on that?
Well, my takeaway is one. See, like that. This is the thing about the drama of boxing is that you never really know. Like you could think you could use you could guess and put
Hmm.
all the stats and look at the past histories of fighters and think whatever you want to think, but you never know what's going to happen when two fighters get in that ring, right?
Mm,
Absolutely.
Kind of like I think Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford is probably the best example of that. Everybody was thinking it was going to go one way, or we didn't
Well, it's gonna be
foresee
a
what we
lot
saw.
closer than it was.
right.
Right. When it came to this fight, you know, Andrade, his pedigree being an Olympian, being undefeated, being a multiple division world champion. But when you look at his resume, not many notable names, if any,
Right.
on his resume. But just going simply off the eye test, going off his pedigree and the fact that you have fighters like the Charlos and Canelo that didn't want to fight this man, that ducked him at different points in his career. And like I said, based off what we saw with our own eyes, is like this kid is special, right? So he gets into the ring with Benavidez, who, probably may have a slightly better resume, but also unproven. Um, Also based off the eye test, he seems to be something special, and I'm thinking it's going to be way more competitive than what it was. They get
Hmm.
into the ring, and he beats this man like he stole something from
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Did not
Beat him like he
foresee.
owned him.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't. I didn't foresee that type of beating. But it goes to show you that one. I mean, if we like in retrospect now, looking back, okay,
Hmm.
clearly I'm gonna say me. I was going off just what my eyes was telling me when it came to Andrade, but resume means something, right?
Right.
Who you fought absolutely means something because you can look good against tomato cans. You can look
Right.
good against dudes who drive Ubers, part time while they fighting,
Yeah.
right? But when you
Exactly.
get
Hmm.
into the ring with somebody that is a world champion or a former
Yeah.
world champion or somebody who has been in the mix of like competing at a high level, if you're not beating none of them guys,
Yeah.
you probably really not as good as people think you are. And I'm not trying to shit on Andre
Yeah.
or
I
nothing like that. But clearly, we was going off the eye test when it came to him.
mhm.
And I hate to say that, you know what I'm saying? But when
And I
it's
think
just
I think we was going off the eye test and the fact that Charlo and Canelo was
was
ducking.
ducking him.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And we was like, so do they know something we don't know type thing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And he looked good beating a lot of fighters he beat.
He
A
did.
slick
Yeah.
southpaw. Like he has skills. He's an Olympian, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
he's just
He
he's
was an
just not on
Olympian.
the level. So what's next for him?
He was a
He
world
may need
class
to
fighter.
he may need to go back
Absolutely.
down to 160. Go
Yeah.
back down to
Well,
160
so do you think
and
that might
see
have been
what's
the
there for
problem?
him.
Was the fact that
No.
the power with
No.
Benavidez at 168 was too much?
No.
You don't think
I think
so?
that
No.
was one of the issues. That was
No.
one of the issues.
I
That
think
wasn't
the
the
issue was
issue.
that he was in with a superior fighter. I think
Hmm.
that was the main like that was it. He was like I was talking to Bomani. I think we was talking about this on the Parry the other day.
Hmm.
He was out fought, he was outclassed, he was out hustled, he was out muscled. Like every corner you turn, he was a step behind
And he was out on his feet.
Benavidez. And if
Right.
by the fourth round, Benavidez had completely separated himself from from Andrade and showed the
Hmm.
difference in class. There was a whole difference in class. Both of them are world class, but there's world class, and then there's that elite. You know, there's that world class,
Yeah.
that elite, and then there's that special elite. Right
Yeah.
now, Benavidez showed us that he's elite
Right.
by that fight.
If he
He
beats
showed us that
Canelo, would you
he
consider him
showed us
special elite?
if he beats Canelo,
Who?
then he's put himself in the special
Benavidez.
elite
Benavidez?
because
Yeah.
Canelo is special.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
He's in that
Yep.
class. And someone like Andre, um, he's the type of fighter who will go on to possibly win another title or two and pretty much be somewhat, and I hate to use the term because it almost sounds like it's a reduction, but he'll be
Hmm.
somewhat of a gatekeeper for the
Hmm.
elite. If you're not an elite fighter, you won't be beating him. You might be a
Right.
good fighter, you might be world class to a degree, you might have world class pedigree, but he's the type of fighter who it's gonna take special fighters to beat him. So
Right.
we might see him around, you know, kind of like Shane Mosley late in his career. Hate to say
Hmm.
it,
Badu
Shane
Jack,
Mosley
maybe.
and
Badu Jack's is a good example. But
Badu
I
Jack's a
think
good
Andrade is
example, but
yeah, but
Andrade is
I
a
think
step
Andrade
ahead
is better.
of Badu
Yeah, I think
Jack.
Andrade is better than a step
Badu
ahead of
Jack was
Badu
a
Jack.
glorified journeyman.
That was my guy,
I
though,
wouldn't
man.
say that, man. I like
Yeah.
I saw Badu Jack fight Adonis Stevens alive. You know what I'm
Man,
saying?
that was a hell of a
That was a
fight, man.
that was a hell of a
That was a
fight, man. Like
fight.
I just felt he got the bad side of a lot of close decisions
Me
because I
too.
was there live watching that fight. I
Hmm.
thought he beat Adonis Stevenson,
Me too.
but it was a close fight. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I just
Yeah.
think he's been in so many close fights, and maybe because who he's affiliated with or who the other fighter was affiliated with, he never
Hmm.
got the benefit of the judgment. It was either a
Right.
draw or he lost. And it's like I never saw so many fighters with that a fighter with so many draws on his record. like,
Right. Right.
like,
Right. Right.
Yeah, in all
Right.
fairness,
but
you are right about that.
Um.
but Andre, I feel Andre though, styles make fights.
Hmm.
I think if Andre was in position to fight Canelo, I think Canelo would have issues with Andre. Not saying he would beat him, but I think he
Hmm.
would have issues with Andre. Um, I
I would
just
see
think
him
that
knocking Andre out.
the style of Benavidez, his size, his height, and just his approach, the pressure he puts on you, the constant pressure he puts. I just think Andre wasn't prepared to deal with
Well,
that.
let's look
And
at how the
Canelo's a
fight
slightly different
played out.
fighter.
Because I think what you're saying, I'm not disagreeing with you really, but what I'm saying is it wasn't really that. It was the difference in the class of fighters. And the reason why I'm so adamant about that is because for them first 2 to 3 rounds, Andrade was in that fight. He
He
created
was.
problems for Benavidez. Benavidez had to figure him out and make the adjustments. That's what the great fighters do. He was able to do that, and once he did that, it was over.
I just think the attributes of Benavidez, his because he's a come forward fighter, and the
Hmm.
pressure that puts on you, not just physically but mentally. When you got a
Hmm.
guy, then you got to remember like Andrade is coming up from 154 pounds. He went to
Hmm.
154, 160. Now he's at 168. He didn't have the pop in his punches to sting him to keep a fighter like Benavidez off him. So
Right.
Benavidez, once he
I didn't
tasted
really
his
see him
power
sitting.
or
I didn't
lack
even
of,
see him sitting on his punches in that fight to really even
well, you
like
know,
he was really going for it.
Andre is not really a fighter who sits down on a lot of punches. You know what I'm saying? But especially when you trying to be more of the slick, yeah, his approach is more slick, especially against the
Yeah,
bigger
indeed,
fighter. So
indeed.
as he's as Benavidez got a taste of his power or lack thereof, he was more willing to step forward and step to him. And he was definitely prepared. He's definitely I would say a class above Andre. I think his defense improved for that fight. And
Well,
Andre
yeah,
just wasn't.
Andre
He
wasn't
just
able
didn't
to get
have
his
it.
respect. He wasn't able to make Benavidez respect him. Similar
But
to Benavidez, similar to Joselito Benavidez with his fight with Charlo. He just wasn't able to make Charlo respect him.
Right.
I think a fight with between Andre and Canelo will be a little different because Canelo's style is a little different. He
Hmm.
applies pressure, but in a different kind of way, right? He's more of a
Hmm.
counter puncher. He'll step to you, but the movement that he has and his style of fighting is different from Benavidez, which is why I think a Benavidez Canelo fight. Well, I don't think there's a fight I want to see more in the
Yeah.
sport right now. And I think that I was going back and forth with a coworker last night. We was talking about this fight, and off at first I'm like, I kind of favor Benavidez to win. But then when I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, Canelo's style. Like Benavidez never been in the ring with somebody that's gonna go to the body the way Canelo. He's gonna rip them shots to his body. And him being a taller guy, I don't know
Hmm.
how he's gonna be able to deal with that kind of pressure.
Right.
So it's really a close 50-50 fight. I'm probably gonna now I'm like my mind is kind of going back and forth. I probably would
Hmm.
have favored Canelo in that fight, but I don't think there's a bigger fight in boxing right
How
now.
how much?
5 years ago, I would have to say Canelo. I'm talking about the version of Canelo. Not saying that we just
Mhm.
Right.
went back, but the version of Canelo 5, even going back 10 years ago, hurts Benavidez.
Mm.
Right
Mm.
now, I don't know. Right now,
How
I would have to favor Benavidez, but Canelo is a live wire in there.
right, right, right. I think, I mean, in y'all opinion, experience in huge fights, does that factor in? You know what I mean? Because don't get
It
me
can,
wrong, Benavides, yeah, I mean,
it
he's
can,
just now getting there, but those lights aren't never too bright for Canelo. Like this is what he does. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
it can.
the last weekend, Ryan Garcia, right, and Oscar
Duarte.
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 Yeah.
And so I was watching the fight, and everybody obviously was interested in seeing how Ryan looked with the new trainer, and also coming off the loss, uh, you know, uh, gets Tank and I don't. I know he got the knockout, but I'm not really happy with that performance, man.
You weren't impressed,
You
so to speak.
Yeah, he was doing some that shoulder roll thing where that was
Yeah, he
he was
had
just
no
pretty much
business
turning
doing
his
that.
back, yo. Like
He had
I don't
no
know what
business
that
doing
was,
that.
man. But as far as Ryan Garcia goes, I mean, what did y'all think about the fight? And I guess where do y'all see Ryan as far as ranking against like the names that he's always going to be associated with, which is Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, and Devin Haney?
I think one well just about the fight. I'm probably not as down on Ryan as most people are. I get it. Um, I know that his version of that shoulder roll or whatever you want to call that. I
It was
mean, the man
nasty,
was like
man.
he was sticking his hip out like I don't know what that was, and I don't think his core. I don't think Derek James knew what that was either. You know what I mean? He told him immediately
Right,
to stop that. You know what I'm
right.
saying? I will say, but ironically, I felt like it worked for like a round or two, maybe a round and a half. It kind of worked until Duarte's corner kind of instructed him on what to do and how to get past that. And once Ryan got back to moving and using his legs again, he finished him. I will say my opinion of Ryan Garcia in comparison to the other guys we mentioned, he probably needs the most development, but I feel like he has some of the most natural talent out of any of them, just naturally, like his speed.
Hand
Yeah,
speed is out of
hand
this
speed
world.
is ridiculous, but he's so fundamentally flawed So he has a lot of room. We probably got the most room to grow and improve out of everybody. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, I think he may have to get some losses on his
He's another
record
Amir Khan.
in
I'm
order.
gonna just say it like
Hold
that.
on a
Hmm.
second. I think he's going to get some more losses on his record before he reach a particular point in his career where he may go on a, like a nice little run of just
Hmm.
winning and become a world champion or maybe a multiple division world champion. Um, but in comparison to like Tank, Devin, Shakur, even Tiafimo, he doesn't beat any of these guys.
At all,
Not right now. Not
None
right
ever,
of them.
now.
ever.
None of
He
them.
says right now.
So
I
so
know
so
we have a
let so
difference
let
of
so,
opinion on this. I
so
just
so how about
he's not
this?
in that.
Let's
He's not.
let's
He doesn't
let's
breathe
let's
that air.
keep let's keep it funky then. How about this though?
Mm.
Who would he have the best chance of beating right now?
Out of what the four that he just named,
Yeah.
Lopez.
Mm.
No. Yeah.
Tiafimo
Tiafimo.
Lopez.
Tiafimo. Because Tiafimo's the only one that has shown that he can have an off night.
Yeah.
By getting
Yeah.
dropped and losing to Cambosis, right? A fighter he shouldn't have lost to, that he's clearly a better fighter than. He didn't have it that night.
Hmm.
So out of all of the fighters that we mentioned, like none of them, they may have looked maybe not so great in a particular fight, but none of them had an off night where they took a L. And Tiafimo, he
That's what
looked
separates the special. That's what separates special
he
fight.
didn't look good that night. So I would say uh Ryan probably got the best shot of beating him, but I still can't see it. I
I
think
can't see it
Tiafimo's too
either.
heavy handed
I
for him.
can't see it either. But that's what separates the special from just the regular elite. You know, having an off night and still going in there and handling business and winning. You know, you have people like Mayweather winning with damaged shoulders and bruised hands. You had
Tank Davis.
Hopkins winning.
Tank beat
Hopkins winning with a broke
Isaac
hand.
Cruz.
Tank Davis doing it.
Hmm.
That's what makes fighters special. When they can go in there and when the fight's over, there's no excuse, so they can still win. When you can still win, being with ailments in the ring, you know, on all the greats have been through that. Holyfield, Ali, all the greats.
Well, speaking of people that have been through that, Shakur Stevenson last fight, he didn't look
Snore
like the
fest.
Shakur Stevenson. Yeah, he didn't look like the Shakur Stevenson that we know. He didn't land over non-punches in any round, which it seems
It's a
insane
record.
for. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's insane, right?
He broke
Um,
a record for the least amount of punches landed in a fight. That's
that's
crazy.
great. That's crazy, and so that's crazy. So I mean, De Los Santos is a good fighter. He fought Lomachenko, correct? Uh, didn't he? Or who is his big who is
No,
De Los Santos' big fight?
he I think his last fight he fought Venezuela who was a
Okay,
prospect up and coming. He knocked him out. And nobody he was probably the underdog in that fight as well. Venezuela was more of like looking
I
like he was
got
on
you.
the come up, and yeah, he put him down. Um, yeah, now he didn't fight Lomachenko, but to be honest, I think he would give Lomachenko a good fight. Like De Los
Well,
Santos is a good fighter.
well, that's what I'm saying. So, do we chalk up the I guess Shakur Stevenson looking not like Shakur Stevenson to the fact that De Los Santos was a good fighter? Was it an off night? Is Shakur saying that he was injured? Like what do y'all think?
I think it was an off night. I think
I think it would be a combination of all of that.
that he didn't want to go in there. Wasn't
I could
because
barely hear you, Che.
Yo, we can't hear you. We can barely
my
hear you,
bad.
Che.
I didn't move my mic. I think that it was an off night, but I also think that he tasted some power that he wasn't feeling like that when that oven got open, he wasn't trying to get burnt. You understand what I'm
Mm,
saying? He said,
mhm.
well, let me stay away from this oven. And that just really made for a lackluster fight. As me and Bomani was talking about this just Monday, I don't hold it all on Shakur though, you know. But
Mm.
Shakur is the one who made it the type of fight. It was just that De Los Santos didn't have the ability to corner him, to trap him, or to do anything but look silly, but just chase him around like that in a boring fight. So um, I think he had an off night, but I think it was like I said, it was an off night, and he felt some heat, and he didn't want to go in there and burn himself. I think he was being extra cautious. Maybe it was an injury that we don't know about. That I'm sure there's not though, because he seems like he'd have been the first to tell you, yeah, well, I got a cramp in my leg and my back. Like he's the first one, and but I do it. These niggas won't. I mean, like he's one of those type of fighters. So I think that
Well,
he just had a terrible night.
he did
He did
say
kind of
he don't
allude
want to
to it.
complain. He alluded
Hmm.
to it that there was some
Hmm.
type of injury, and to be honest, it could be some truth to that. It could be true. I
It
don't
could
think the
be.
kid is gonna be would lie about it if it wasn't. But I also know that if you look at his past fights, whenever he been in there with somebody that can punch,
Hmm.
he wasn't willing to walk them down and mix it up with him like that. So this is his worst performance, but it ain't the first
Hmm.
time he kind of stood out the way of somebody that can
What's
crack.
What's interesting about that then is the fact that Shakur talks about Haney like Haney is that way.
Right.
Um,
Which is weird because if you watch Devin Haney's fights, that's not how he fights.
right, right.
He'll mix it up with you. Now, if he has to outbox you and use the jab, he will. But at the same time, he will force the fight. He will engage. He will throw more than just a jab. Like he'll
Hmm.
follow it up with something. He'll throw a combination and get out the way. Which is why people think against Regis, that he got a chance of probably getting touched up because he does get touched up in fights when he chooses to engage. Something Shakur just doesn't do. Well, I ain't gonna say
That's
he doesn't, but he chooses when he wants to do that and against whom.
right, right.
Absolutely,
Who,
absolutely.
if do you think? Um, well, I mean, I think we will. I think we'll eventually one day we will get a Shakur Devin Haney fight because they're so young. But at this point, right now,
That's the build
we
up.
yeah, yeah. But
It won't happen until 147. When they both
mm,
have as welterweights, that's when it'll
mm,
happen.
big
That's what
money
I believe.
fight.
Yeah.
What do you think about the resume that Haney is kind of building for himself right now compared to his peers?
I think he's came from last place to take first place. He
Mm,
literally, if this was a race, he started off behind both of them, caught up to both of them, and now he's clearly surpassed both of them. And it's
right.
because of his ethics. It's because if he wasn't, he didn't have the coming out of the amateurs, he didn't have the luster wasn't around his career, and the spotlight wasn't on him the way it was on Tank or Shakur. So he
Hmm.
had to,
Mostly
like
Shakur.
I said,
Yeah.
he had to do it, mostly Shakur, but he had to do it the Hagler way. He had to go to your backyard. He had to fight you for your title. He had to take the low end of the money, the short end of the stick. Like he had to do it, and he did it with no problem. And you see the difference in the attitude of his contemporaries, whereas they not willing to do a lot of these things because they came out of a pampered, spoiled situation. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? So,
I
and I
think the
think that
only
that really
fighter
built his character.
I think the only fighter like in that crop of fighters who resume can even come close or may even be on par or even better, depending on how you want to look at it, is probably Tiafimo.
Mm,
Beating
hmm.
fighters like
With,
Richard Comey,
hmm.
beating Lomachenko, beating Josh Taylor at 140. Like this is something that Tank and Shakur and Tank don't got those type of fighters on their resume. Devin Haney got Lomachenko. Now he's about to get a Reese's Prograis, right? So I will say like if you want my opinion, I think Tiafimo's probably the only person who resume is compares or is even better. But in comparison to Tank and Shakur,
Hmm.
I don't think their resume stand up to Devin Haney's at this point.
I don't
Oh,
either. So, but here's the thing. All right. So Tank, um, would you say his biggest fight was Ryan Garcia?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So from I saw something on Twitter the other day where I believe they said that Devin Haney was going to vacate all his belts. Did y'all see that?
yeah,
And
yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
and then so I forgot who it was. Might have been Raphael, but somebody tweeted that it looks like Tank will get the email. I know, right? Tank will get one of those belts. I forgot which one it was, and Tank was like, "Man, I don't want that shit."
Right.
And Tank is a big money fighter. He's a pay per view guy, but do you find it strange to have that kind of, to be a prize fighter, right? I know it's
No,
about getting the
no.
prize, but
I
you
see
don't
the
find it.
prize. Mm.
Mm,
You have to
you,
understand, we in the era where now you're getting called email champions. It used to be the paper champion,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
to have that stigma, I mean, because what they're talking about is pretty much gifting him the title. You know what I'm
Right. It's
saying?
yeah, yeah.
Instead
Okay.
of fighting for it, you know, these championships, when championships are vacated, there needs to be tournaments. There needs to be elimination bouts. There need to,
Mm,
or at least the top
hmm.
contenders fighting for it. Gifting someone a title is it depreciates the value of the championship. That's why, to me, and I mean, I don't know what the exact consensus is at the Parry, but I know for me, I can't even call a lot of these guys champions because they're not
Mm,
beating champions to get the title. They just titleists. And then you got
right.
so many damn
Titleist. I like
titles
that.
in the division. It's like, how do you call them a champion?
Hmm.
Which is
Who's
why
the
I gotta
champ?
give, which is why I gotta give Devin Haney respect
Devin Haney
because
is a champion.
right, but when he
He
when
went
he
to
when he was
Australia to go get his.
but when he was even given the WBC, I don't know if people remember, they was trying to put together a tournament. Teofimo backed out of it for the WBC belt, and he went for the IBF and fought Richard Comey. Right?
Mm,
There was supposed to have been a little mini tournament for that WBC belt, but all his peers, nobody wanted to compete for it. So that's how he ended up with it. People missed
wow.
that part.
Right,
People
It,
missed
right.
it
that part and
it's
act like
still
he
it's
was
still
just given that
deteriorate.
belt.
It's still no. He was they a lot of people do miss it, but he was still giving it. So they're
No,
not
no, no. I'm
wrong.
I'm
They
I'm
just
saying
missed the point that other people choose not to fight for. But the
I'm
WBC
just talking
knows
about
damn
the
well.
fighters who chose. I'm talking about the fighters who chose not to fight
Right,
for it, is what I'm
right,
saying. It's like
right.
because you got that element too, right? Like yeah, like you don't want to be given a title, but
You
are you
calling
willing
me
to
an
get ahead
email
and,
champion
and,
because
and
you wouldn't fight for it?
right? But
But
right,
they
are
could have
you are
found
you gonna get
somebody
in the
to
mix
fight
for these
him though.
titles?
They could have went in their rankings and said, okay, well, number one, number two don't want to fight, so we got to throw you in with number three, or we got to take number three and number four and have them fight each other, and then you fight the winner of that. Like it's something got
Mhm.
to give. That's how they used to do it back in the day. Back in the day, if they couldn't get the fighters they wanted to, they went down to who they had to get.
We need another Super Six tournament, man, like they did back in the
Yeah,
day.
with
R.V.
Andre
Ward
Ward
and
and
them.
them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the Prograde fight is coming up.
Yeah. We doing a
How
live
do y'all
fight party for that.
for sure? I'll definitely be tuned in. How do y'all see it going, man?
You got to go with Haney.
Jake.
You got to
Hmm.
go with Haney. Conventional wisdom says Haney wins this fight. Um, he's the better fighter. He has the better resume. I think that Prograis can put up a fight. Prograis has the potential to upset him. But to me, and I say upset because you got to have Haney to favor. But
Hmm.
I expect it to be a competitive fight. But I expect Haney to separate himself in this fight. I expect this fight to be a fight that may start off competitive, and by the end of the fight, if it's not a knockout, which I don't expect, it'll be clear who the winner is going to be.
They
I
say
I,
pro. Go ahead.
I think I had to do a little bit of film study right
Mm-hmm.
around this fight because I'm a big fan of both fighters.
Yeah.
So I went back and I was looking at some highlights and some past fights from Regis Prograis, and it made me favor Devin Haney even more now for this fight.
Wow. Wow. What did you
Um,
see?
be, well, I noticed that what Prograis he telegraphs his jab a lot, just the way that he moves. He kind of
Hmm.
shuffles, and he also like David Benavidez. He brings his rear foot. He steps with his rear foot first, which can a lot of times will keep you off balance. And
Hmm.
he does kind of he does lean and get his head off center line, but he telegraphs it with that shovel, and it can easily be timed. And him being a southpaw, he's leaning right into Devin Haney's wheelhouse, which is he's good with that jab and he's good with that
Hmm.
straight right. So I think he's gonna be easy to hit. I think he's going to be easy to be hit with that right hand, and I think he's going to get hit and hit a lot.
Right. Right. Oh man,
If he
that's
if he don't if he don't improve on that, like he said, he was working on his skills, and which is weird to me being a champion and the man moving up. He wanted a tune-up fight before he fought Haney. He didn't get that opportunity, and he's saying that in this camp, he's not just focused on his power, he's working on his skill, which is something that you would think you would be working on anyway. But
hmm
he still has like in his last fight against Zoria, is where I noticed like he shuffles and he can easily be timed with that. And Devin
Yeah.
Haney is too clever for that. His IQ is way too high, and I just now I'm even more convinced like Devin Haney is probably going to punch his face off. And I'm a big fan of Regis Prograde. Let me just say that, huge fan. But
Yeah,
I think Devin got too much for him.
Do y'all
I don't think Regis Prograis is in the same league as Devin Haney. Personally, I don't think they're
mm,
in the same league.
do you think he? I mean, Regis has enough power to make
Absolutely, absolutely.
because we've seen that Devin can get buzzed a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Is this what Regis should go in there with the mind state of, hey man, I gotta hurt Devin because I'm not going to outbox him.
I mean,
I think the
if
closer he can
I'm
get to
Regis,
Devin, the better.
Mhm,
see, if I'm looking at it more like this, if I'm Regis, I'm looking to see how quick I can get to him, and if I'm finding him hard and elusive, then it's like, okay, now I got to set up some traps. Now I got to fall back, maybe make him come to me a little bit more, and try to time him coming in or try to find an angle. So
mhm,
if I'm Regis, this is how I'm thinking. I'm thinking I'm gonna go out there and see how easy I can reach him, how easy I can touch this guy, and then if I can't the way I want to, as you know, I'm gonna fall back, let him come to me, maybe even make him think I'm hurt or something like that to entice him to come forward and try to
mhm.
time him coming forward. And
Yeah,
that might be
yeah.
his best bet.
I'm a go ahead and go out and just put this out there. I think Devin Haney. I ain't gonna say he gonna stop him, but he gonna drop him.
Yeah, I don't see
Wow.
either one of them. I don't see him stopping or dropping him because
He's dropping him.
Prograis is he's
Can
going
you
up
can
in
you
weight.
if he drops Rougarou,
He could,
that
he could.
just
I don't
that
see it though.
man, that'll say a
I
lot.
think Devin looking real strong at 140, and
Hmm.
I just think again styles make fights, and I think he's just tailor made for Devin Haney's right hand, and I could see him and just he's a Rougarou likes to move forward.
Hmm.
Devin Haney can fight moving backwards.
Right.
And I can see him catching him with something that he don't see that stuns him. I think he got dropped in his last fight against
Yeah, he
Zorilla.
did. I agree. He could fight moving backwards and he's good. I don't see him carrying that power as he's moving backwards to drop. You know, he got to hit him with something hard. He's gonna have to hit him with something harder than we've seen him throw. I don't see it, but it could happen though. I wouldn't be
But
completely
Zorilla,
surprised.
remember, Zorilla only had 12, 13 knockouts on his record too, and he
Mm,
dropped him. That's all I'm saying. It's like
mm.
it didn't take much for Zorilla to drop him, and Devin Haney's a way better fighter than Zorilla is. So um,
That's without a doubt.
I feel like I just feel like his style is just tailor made. Like when I was doing
I,
him study, I'm like, yeah, he shuffles. It's a lot of timing mechanisms that he got in his game that if you keen to it, you can time him with something the way he do it because he moves. He got a rhythm the way he
Mhm,
moves his head
and
and
that's
his hands.
dangerous.
He fights with his hands real low, like kind of like Lomachenko, but he's just not as quick and
And you can
skillful as
time that
Lomachenko.
rhythm.
So you can time that and when he's about to jab, he does this with his hands, like he
mm,
shuffles and then he throws his jab.
mhm,
I think he's going to get touched by Devin Haney. I ain't gonna say stopped,
mhm.
but let's say rocked and probably dropped in that fight. You know what I'm saying?
Man, if Devin can pull that off, I think that just raises his stock like so much more, man. Because him not being known as, they call him pillow fisted at times. You know what I'm saying? And going up to 140 and then being able to drop pro grade, that would say a lot, man.
It would say
La-
more than I think is going to happen, but it could happen.
I think out of the young crop, um, I'm definitely a fan of Tank, but I think Haney might be my favorite at the moment just because I feel like he get a whole lot of unnecessary hate. You know what I'm saying?
You we on the same page. You with me? That's how I feel,
Yeah,
man. That's my
yeah. So
man. I
yeah, man,
rocks
he
with
get a whole
Dev,
lot of
man.
unnecessary hate, man. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I rock it with Devin, man. Last question I wanted to ask y'all again. Um, best boxing podcast on YouTube by far, hands
Thank you,
down,
brother.
man. And
Thank
that's
you.
that's word is bond. Um, this is I meant to ask this earlier, but I definitely got to get this in because this is, I think we debated it in your group. Well, a few of us did, and it's always a debate in a boxing group. So I just want to get y'all opinion on it. Is Mike Tyson a top 10 heavyweight fighter of all time?
I mean,
Yes.
the Parry's top 10 heavyweight boxers of all time. Anyone who's seen the bottom five of the list already knows the answer to that. Mike
Mm.
Tyson came in at number 10 on our list, where I mean, I would love to see him higher on that list. I would love to see
But
him higher on
what
that
what
list, but
people,
be-
a lot of people that say that he doesn't deserve that because of who
because
he
what?
fought, like because of who he fought. They say
Who
his
he
resume
fought
is
or who he
pretty weak.
lost to?
Now, what I've heard is from the argument I've seen is they feel like his resume is weak.
And I'm gonna say this: he don't have the strongest resume, but he fought in one of the weakest divisions at that particular time in the '80s.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And he was incarcerated, for the first half of the
Hmm.
strongest division in the heavyweight box, the second strongest era in heavyweight boxing. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So like he missed a lot of the '90s. He came out and won a couple of titles and whatnot, but to say who he fought. See, that's something that a lot of people just regurgitate that. They just repeat that. They just
Right.
but the reality of it is Mike Tyson lost to the best fighters that he fought. His resume isn't the best, the stellar resume, but off of the skill set that he brought, off of the excitement, off of how he carried the sport on his back. You got to remember, he was the most electrifying heavyweight champion
That
since
we ever
Muhammad
seen.
Ali. Since
To me,
Yeah,
Muhammad
that we
but
Ali.
ever
but
seen,
but
man.
but I mean, first of all, I don't think if is he a top 10 heavyweight. I think the argument is that is he at 10 or should
Mm.
he be higher? I don't think it's a
Mm.
debate really if he's
Mm.
top 10.
Mm.
But
I
but
can
here's the
feel that.
thing.
I keep him
But
at
here's the
10 though,
thing.
but I feel that.
No, no, and I can understand that too. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about Tyson in regards to his resume, right? I mean, Joe Lewis, who's I don't think it's even up for debate if he's a top 10 or top 5, top 3
Hmm.
heavyweight of all
The
time.
most dominating heavyweight
Him
champion of all time was Joe Louis.
him out of his own mouth said that he was on the bum of the month tour. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Another fighter that was on the
Mm.
bum of the month. He
Hold
fought
on, whoa,
if it was
whoa,
some
whoa,
guy.
whoa, whoa, whoa,
I,
whoa, 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 whoa.
this is
You
what he
wilding right
said.
now. We
I'm
all
not
know
wilding.
about the bum of the whoa. We all know about the bum of the month tour, but you're acting like the bum of the month tour was his actual career. That was a time
No, no,
period.
no,
I
no.
would say
That's
that was
not
an
what I.
era.
That's not what I. Let me finish my
Oh,
point, brother. That's all I'm saying.
okay.
Yo, man, chill
Okay, go
out,
ahead,
bro.
finish. Finish.
I know that was a
You
moment in
sounded
time. What
stuff a
I'm
lot.
saying is that everybody on his resume is not gonna. Like I said, the man went on a self-proclaimed bum of the month tour. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Now, when it comes to Mike Tyson, now you can only fight the fighters that's in your era that is put in front of you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Mike is if correct me if I'm wrong, Che, if he wasn't the first, you know what I'm saying, he was one of the first
He
heavyweight
was the
champions to
first.
take the title from the champions. He there was no I
Yeah,
got the
he's the
vacated
first.
belt.
He's the
He
first
took the
to win
belt,
all, to unify all. First, he's the first. First of all, he's the first one to unify all three titles.
Mm.
right,
He's the first one to
and
ever do that.
take him from the champion.
And he
Hmm.
beat three champions in succession to do it.
Like,
Wow.
First
yeah.
heavyweight to ever do that. Nothing was vacated. Nothing was, there was no for the vacant. He beat three champions for their title, and then
And let's be
and
clear.
then and then beat the linear champion.
Yeah, and
Who was the linear
Michael
champion at that
Spinks.
time?
Michael
Michael
Spinks,
Oh,
because
Spinks.
Michael
Spinks. Yep.
Spinks had
Sure
not
did.
lost.
90 seconds.
Remember, he hadn't lost the belt.
So
He just had got stripped of the IBF for refusing to partake in a tournament.
and let's
Yep.
be clear. Let's not act like Mike wasn't ducked. It was fighters that
Oh,
didn't want to mix
absolutely.
it up with Mike either. You know what I
Right.
mean? It
Right.
was
Like
fighters
who?
that was like, I'll fight somebody else if I could. You know what I'm saying? When fighters
Tyson was
like
a paycheck though.
he was a paycheck. George Foreman didn't want to fight him.
Hmm.
He says that in retrospect, and he also says that Tyson didn't want to fight him. I really don't. I think that if the opportunity presented itself, they would have fought. If the promoter would have came in there and said, "Yo, that was money," but I hear the argument though. I do hear the argument, and I
I'm just
respect the argument.
I'm just saying everybody wasn't jumping at the opportunity to fight Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? Because
Where?
it
Well,
was a
let me
big
ask you this:
paycheck, but he also was a lot of pain coming with that check.
See the
Where?
the take. Go ahead, because I was
Where
gonna
was
say this.
Lennox?
Not
Where was Lennox Lewis on this list?
Lennox Lewis was number 7.
Number 7.
Okay. Okay.
Was he
All
number
right.
He
7?
could be
Hold on,
higher.
hold on. Wait a minute. Wait a
Yeah.
minute. Wait a minute.
He
Hold on.
was
Hold on. Hold
7.
on.
Yeah.
Was he 7?
Yeah. No,
10 was Tyson. He might have been like 8. 10
no,
was
he was
Tyson.
8. 10,
9 was
Dempsey, he was 8. He was 8.
9 was Dempsey. Lewis might
9
have
was
been
Dempsey. Lewis was 8. 7
yeah,
was Frazier, and 6 was Foreman, if I'm not
absolutely. Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
Lewis is
yeah,
where he belongs at, but like I said, once you get to Lewis, you can start putting anybody in that top 3.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I think Lennox Lewis be highly underrated, man.
Oh, I do
Lennox
too.
Lewis,
I
Lennox
do
Lewis
too,
was a
man.
problem, man.
Problem. You
Beat
know,
everybody he
and
been in
Lennox
the
Lewis
ring with.
cleaned up his division after beating Holyfield. He went on to literally clean up that division.
so did officially did Riddick Bowe ducking Lewis, or was it really just like some business promotion type
I
shit, or
think
was
there
that a
was
duck?
business that they couldn't get it together. They actually the fighters agreed. Rick, not Rick, Rock Newman
Rock Newman.
did put an offer into Riddick Bowe. I mean to Lennox Lewis. They turned that offer down. Then when they came back to try to get the offer, Rock Newman said that ain't the same offer no more. You know what they say? Today's
Yeah,
price ain't
yeah.
yesterday's price. So they had one of them type of situations. But then they actually did agree to fight each other for Lennox Lewis's WBC strap. But Lewis ended up getting knocked out by Oliver McCall. So they did agree to
Yeah, I
fight.
remember that.
Oliver McCall was a tune-up fight between the Lewis Riddick Bowe fight.
Wow.
And Riddick Bowe from Brooklyn. We don't duck nothing in Brooklyn, B. I'm just saying.
Yeah, yeah. No,
We don't
but
duck nothing.
Riddick Bowe was a bad man that
And
I
see,
feel
this is
like.
why when we talk Tyson, this is what the problem becomes. Riddick Bowe, Lennox Lewis, and it's we talking the prime.
Hmm.
Um, what's my man? Michael Moorer,
Hmm.
David Tua. There were
Hmm.
fighters out here that he could have fought that he never fought. There was a
Yeah.
lot of fighters in the '90s that when Tyson came home, he rather see McNeely. He rather see Mathis Jr.
He fought
You
Peter
know,
McNeely.
Yeah, I remember.
Mathis both.
um, was and I know I remember he beat Razor Ruddock. Was that
that's his best fight. That
yeah?
was his
That's
best.
what I was
That's the
about to.
prime Mike Tyson. The
Hold
prime
on.
Mike
Was it
Tyson
was
was
it
the two
what?
fights.
No, I was
Razor
gonna say
Ruddock.
was that as far as an opponent for Mike, like, did y'all see that as a decent win on his resume,
Oh
like one of
yeah,
his best
yeah,
wins?
yeah.
Absolutely. But
Absolutely,
when you look, but
absolutely.
here becomes the knock, because I agree. But here becomes the knock. After that, we never seen Razor Ruddock in a victorious capacity. We seen him get knocked out
Mm,
in the second round of Lennox Lewis on
mm,
Halloween, and then we seen him get knocked out. What was it, 6 rounds by Tommy Morrison?
mm. Right,
I mean,
right.
I don't know who was the same after catching the ass whooping from Mike though. We just
Yeah.
I'm saying he caught two though. He fought him back to back, and in the second fight, Tyson broke his jaw and he hung in there for 12.
this is.
The knock on Tyson in the second fight was that he struggled with a man with a broke jaw.
Mm.
I'm well. It's hard to hit a
I'm gonna go
dude
back and
that
watch
that
that
don't
one.
want to get that. He don't want to get that jaw touched. You know what I'm saying? Ali fought with a broken jaw. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
You
Ali
got
looked
your
like he
jaw
was had
broke.
his jaw broke. Razor Ruddock fought in that fight, man. Razor Ruddock busted Mike Tyson's eardrum in the first fight.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
I
Nah,
mean,
Razor Ruddock was tough, man. Shout out to my yardis. You know what I'm
like,
saying?
No,
like,
no
like
doubt, no
Tyson
doubt.
showed. Tyson showed he had grit in that fight. In those
Hmm.
two fights, he showed he could face adversity.
Right, right.
Yeah, I gotta
He
dip
just
out
think he
soon,
probably.
brothers.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I was going to say, again, I appreciate y'all for coming on. This is I'm gonna give the floor to y'all for a little bit of self promotion. Let everybody know about the podcast before we dip out.
Well, we are the hosts, myself, Bomani UFG, my brother, the pragmatic Shade Black. We are the hosts of the Parry, where we don't pull, duck no punches, and the parry is fundamental to boxing. You know what I'm saying? We are the premier boxing channel on YouTube. We're talking to two hardcore boxing fans. We love the sport. I myself, I am more of the what's happening now. Che is the historian, and we both love the sport. We both know what the hell we talking about. We both been in the ring before. We both done trained before. I train fighters myself sometimes, and you know what I'm saying? We're not casuals. This is for the hardcore
Mm.
boxing fans. If you love the sport, then you know we know what we talking about. You know what I
If you
mean?
love the sport, you'll love the parry.
You can catch us
That's
on
absolute fact. That's why I
you can
told
catch us
everybody.
on
That's why I told y'all this the best boxing podcast on YouTube, man. So man, y'all keep it up. Salute. This is definitely not the last time y'all coming through, man. Shit, we can do this for all the big joints, man. Like this was dope, man. So I definitely appreciate y'all for coming
We
through.
appreciate you, Lord.
No doubt, God.
Appreciate
So,
you, man.
all right, man. To the next time, y'all be easy.
Absolutely,
Salute,
man.
brother. Thank you for
Peace
having
to
us.
the
Peace.
gods.